Welcome, welcome. Shalom, shalom. Do we have audio now? Do we have audio? Do we have audio? All right. I'm not sure what's going on here. Do we have any audio? Okay. Calamento says echo. Do we have an echo? Sorry about this. As some of you may know, we're trying out a new system here. So, yeah, echo. All right. Okay, I think. Let me see. Okay. Do we still have an echo? Do we still have an echo? Testing, testing, testing. Yes. All right. I'm wondering what's going on here. How's that? Is that an echo? Sorry about that for those of you who are just tuning in here. We have just recently made some changes here, so we still have some. Oh, it sounds like I'm in an auditorium. Okay, all right, that's it. Okay, I think I got it here. All right. For some reason, it sounds pretty cool. I couldn't hear it until just now. I'm not sure. I was just messing around with these settings, and I couldn't hear it until just now. But yeah, now that I hear it, it sounds like I'm in an auditorium. Let me just fix this up a little bit. Okay. All right. Does that sound better? Let me know if that sounds better. Does that sound better? Okay, now. Okay, well, echo is gone now. Well, okay, what a welcome that was. All right, but you know what? For some reason, I have some sounds really weird in my headphones, so I'm just going to take it off. Anyways, yeah. So shalom, shalom, welcome, welcome, world changers. Tonight we're going to read a little bit more from Genesis. I keep on saying that. Genesis chapter 20, about the life of Abraham. I've got a few comments I want to respond to as well as a critical thinking tip of the day as usual. So, welcome everyone. Welcome. And thank you for letting me know about the audio problems here. I see we have Calamento says shalom, everyone. And Psalm 94 says shalom, one and all. Tammy says shalom, all. Seek the Lord says shalom. Okay, welcome, everyone. Blessings. As always, I pray that everything we share today would be a great blessing to all of you. Increase your knowledge of the scriptures, your knowledge of the things of heaven, and your relationship with God. All right. Okay, I'm going to start out with the comments that I received on YouTube this time. All three comments. I got three comments that I received on YouTube recently, so I want to talk about those first, and then after that, the regular format will go into the critical thinking tip and then the reading for tonight. So the first one was left on an old video that made several months ago. The Torah, or actually, no, sorry. This is the one that's been just a couple of days ago. My mistake. The Torah is not temporary. Okay, and so Maria, here, let me just zoom this in. She said the Torah is not temporary, but Jesus fulfilled the old covenant and established a new one. Okay, I'm not sure what you're referring to there, Maria, but it seems like you are confusing the old covenant with the Torah. The old covenant is not the Torah. Okay, the Torah is not the old covenant. The old covenant, the Torah is in the old covenant, but it's not the covenant. It's not. Don't confuse covenant and law. They're two different things. Covenant is like a marriage, and law is a law. A covenant is an agreement, whereas law is law. So we have many different covenants in the Bible. Many different covenants in the Bible. And this is the reason why Paul says in Romans chapter 9 that to the Israelites belong the covenants. Okay, it's plural. We have many covenants: the covenant of Abraham, covenant of Isaac, covenant of Jacob, covenant of Moses. All kinds of covenants in the scriptures. So covenant is not law. Covenant is like a marriage. The best way to understand this is a covenant. A marriage is a covenant. Covenant is like a marriage. So you may have, like, let's say, for example, there may be within any given country, there could be many different marriages come and go. Okay, marriages beginning, marriages ending within any given country, but the law still stands in the same way the Torah still stands. The Torah is not the covenant. Maria goes on to say, at the moment is the new covenant that it's at work, and it's nothing to do with Israel. The covenant is with the Byzantine. I'm not sure where you get this from, Maria, because I haven't read anything in the scriptures about the Byzantine people. It's all about the people of Israel, and it's quite clear in the scriptures that I have, in the Bible translation and the translations of scriptures that I have. It's all to do with Israel and not to do with any other people. And keep in mind, the book of Revelation chapter 21 says the final destination. If you go by the book of Revelation, if you consider the book of Revelation to be part of your doctrine, well, the book of Revelation chapter 21 says that the final destination, the New Jerusalem, the heavenly city, has 12 gates, one gate for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. There is no Byzantine gate. There is no Gentile gate. It's the 12 tribes of Israel. If you're not part of Israel, you're not getting in. At least, hey, I have to ask, if you think that you're getting in, which gate are you going to use? That's a question. Okay? So we have a slave of Allah says, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome. Blessings as always. Peace be multiplied back to you. Okay, next comment is by Bible First. Now this is a little bit of an older short video that I posted. Steps to freedom from sin. Step 4: I am crucified with Christ. And you may have noticed, or you may have remembered that Bible First, we actually spoke to one of Bible First's other comments in another live stream. And so Bible First says, now you're preaching Paul. Well, welcome aboard. I mean, there's hardly ever a live stream that we do. And we do live streams almost every day. 360 some odd days of the year, pretty much. We do live streams, and there's hardly ever a live stream that goes by that I don't reference, or at least quote Paul in some way, or refer to Paul in some way. In fact, I just did in the last comment, right? Talking about Paul in Romans chapter 9, talking about the covenants. And this is the reason why I do that. Is not because I believe that Paul is perfect in everything he says. The reason why I do that is because some of the audience that I have are Christians who really put a lot of faith in what Paul says. And what I'm trying to say is, hey, even Paul preaches this message. And when it comes to, the message here that you commented on, step 4, I am crucified with Christ, that is, at least in concept, part of the Torah, part of the Tanakh. The idea is in the now we're talking about the Old Covenant, or just saying the Old Covenant, but not just in the Old Covenant, but also throughout the history of the Scriptures. When somebody brought a sacrifice, the idea was they're supposed to identify with that sacrifice, especially if it's a sacrifice for sin. They're supposed to identify with that sacrifice. When that animal dies, you die with that animal. And, when they take the fat and they, as it says in the Torah, burn it on the altar. And you're supposed to watch that and say that, that fat represents the passions and desires of the sinful nature. And so when Paul said in Galatians chapter 2, verse 20, I am crucified with Christ, he didn't just pull that out of a hat. He didn't make that up. He didn't say he got it from God. I mean, it is actually a Jewish concept applied to Christ. That's what it is. Same with Galatians chapter 5, verse 24, when he says those who belong to Christ, or those who are Christ's, have crucified their sinful nature with its passions and desires. So he's riding on Judaic concepts there. So the reason why I quote Paul is because he reverberates in those particular concepts with the Tanakh. Hey, Bible first. If you're gonna put a comment in the on the videos, and you're gonna comment in such a way that it's a really good and it's a true comment, I'm gonna quote you. In fact, I have quoted you. Does that mean everything you say is perfect? Does that mean you're a perfect person? You're perfect? In the same way, I quote Paul. That doesn't mean he's perfect. Okay? I look at Paul in exactly the same way, at least as far as I can ascertain, historically speaking, how the early disciples, at least the 12 disciples, or at least part of them, because probably most of them were already gone by the time Paul came on the scene, because they were already gone preaching the gospel before Paul got, saved, okay? So that's why it talks about in the book of Acts, we only got like Peter and James. Like, where are all the other disciples? They're not there because they've already went and, fulfilled the Great Commission. That's the idea. By the way, they didn't need Paul to preach the gospel. They didn't need the epistles of Paul at all. If you cannot preach the gospel without Paul, you're not preaching the right gospel. If you can't preach the gospel without Paul, and you're not preaching the right gospel. This is the reason why Paul kept on referring to, or at least trying to refer or quote the Tanakh all the way through his epistles, because he needs something to try to substantiate his doctrine on. Because he can't just come and say, hey, I'm a perfect prophet. He never said he's a prophet. He didn't say he was perfect either, okay? He's not perfect, and he's not a prophet. He claimed to be an apostle, but an apostle is just an apostle. It's not a prophet, okay? So just because Paul may not be right in some of the things he says doesn't mean I'm going to completely just erase him out of the pages of history, okay? Just because Bible first, maybe there might be something you say that's not exactly right. Maybe you're not perfect. Does that mean I'm not going to read your comments? You see what I'm saying? Okay? So no, this is a false dichotomy. It's like, it's either you accept Paul as being perfect inspired by God. Everything that he said is like he's a robot. Paul the robot, the Paul bot, okay? The Paul bot from heaven. It's Paul the robot who somehow got programmed by God to actually write, God forced, actually not a pen, it would be a quill. Forced a quill in his hand and forced him to write him. No, that's not how it works. That's not how Paul wrote. We see in Acts chapter 15 and in Acts chapter 21 how the disciples and how the elders of the church treated Paul. And they didn't treat Paul with such veneration as the Christians do today. So keep that in mind. Study. Thank you for your comment there, Bible First. Last comment before we get into the critical thinking tip is from Brett, and he left this on another short video that we posted called the author of 2 Peter, a little clip of live stream that we did with Dr. Robert Price there. It's been a while since he was on, but yes. So Brett says the verse in reference 2 Peter 3:2 references both the old prophets and the apostles because it's something said by Isaiah, I believe, and reiterated by the apostles in the New Testament. If this is meant to dispute the authorship of the book, it's barely proof. Well, again, thank you very much, Brett, for your comment. I appreciate that. I think what I would highly recommend, Brett, is to listen to the live stream. Listen to the full interview with Dr. Price, because he says a whole lot more than that. And by the way, it's not just Dr. Price. In fact, it is most, if not all, Bible scholars. Most, if not all. And I say most, if not all, because there might be somebody in there somewhere that disagrees. But as far as it depends. I've heard many sources say that all credible scholars agree that 2 Peter is a forgery. It's not written by Peter. And there are many other reasons to believe that. Dr. Price went into a few. Now, he also said that it is full of clues that it's not written by Peter. He only touched on a few in that little short video. He touched on others. I actually posted another short video taken from that same live stream in which he elaborated a little bit more in, for example, it's not just the content, such as he explained in that short video. It's also the style of writing. Okay? The style of writing in 2 Peter is not the same style of writing as 1 Peter. It's not just the style of writing in a shallow sense, but also if you look into the paleography of it all, and you talk to scholars who are more familiar with the paleography and paleographers who actually study ancient Greek manuscripts, they will tell you that 2 Peter was written by somebody who is a completely different person than 1 Peter, because of not just the content or the style of writing, but also the way the Greek is being used. The Greek in itself, as Dr. Price said in another part in that live stream, that it's near Byzantine Greek style, which is not even close to 1 Peter, let alone 1 Peter being, whether or not 1 Peter is actually authentic is another question, okay? Some scholars do not believe that either 1 Peter or 2 Peter, neither one is actually authentic. It was a common practice back in the ancient days to forge documents like this. It was common. It wasn't looked upon as bad as it is today. So keep that in mind. We have the historicity, we have the surrounding evidence, we have the culture in which a lot of these documents, like Dr. Price was talking about, there's a 1 Peter, there's a 2 Peter, there's a 3 Peter, there's a 4 Peter, and there are other writings purported to be by Peter as well. All kinds of different letters and writings that was purported to be by Peter. And keep in mind that the Bible canon is not set in stone. God never commanded a Bible canon at all. Okay, this is why we say, and I almost say it almost every live stream, right? The Bible is unbiblical, and it is. This is a fact. The Bible is unbiblical. The Bible was compiled by men. Okay, the books that are included in the Bible are books that are that were put in there by men. Okay, not all the books in the Bible are created equal. Put it that way. So, yes, there are a lot of reasons, and there's a lot of evidence behind the idea that 2 Peter was forged. Don't think that we have, a whole bunch of paleographers and almost every reputable scholar on the planet that would say that 2 Peter was forged unless they had really, really good reason for it. So check it out, look it up, and study it. Thank you for your comment there, Brett. Okay, so we have Tower Time says, Shalom and howdy, brothers and sisters. Bless y'all. Thank you. And shalom and howdy. Bless you more. Tower Time, good to see you. Welcome. Okay, so critical thinking tip of the day is to avoid the fallacy of composition. This is kind of like what we were just talking about, in the past few minutes here. The fallacy of composition tells us that if it's true of the parts, then it must be true of the whole. Like a couple examples here. There are 2 students in my class that are straight A students. Therefore, I'm in a straight A class. Well, it doesn't necessarily work that way, So this is what happens. And I think this might have been what was going on with the other comment there. It's like, well, you quote Paul? What? I never, ever said to throw Paul out or to throw out his epistles. Never, ever said that. I point out some things that he said, and if it's interpreted the way that most traditional churches interpret it today, then yeah, I'm sorry, but Paul's wrong. But, there are people who make Paul jump through the hoops and make it work somehow. So whatever the case is, just because somebody says one thing wrong doesn't mean that they're all wrong. So yeah, in the same way, just because you have a couple students in the class that are straight A students, it doesn't mean the whole class is a straight A class. And another thing is like, well, I bought a new part for my old computer, therefore I have a new computer. Well, it doesn't necessarily work that way. I bought a fan for my computer, therefore I have a new computer. Well, no, you have a new fan, but not a new computer. So let's not engage, or at least let's try to work on identifying this fallacy whenever it crops up. The fallacy of composition. All right. So, so we got Hannah, and she is going to, let me see here. Hannah is going to come on and play for us for a few minutes, and then we're going to get into the reading for tonight, which I'll start with Genesis chapter 20. Okay, just give me, I know there's a little bit of a problem with sound here, but Hannah, if you just give me a second here, I'll pull you on, and then you can play. Okay, so, all right. Anyways, so here's Hannah, and she's going to play for you live for a few minutes, and we'll be right back. Well, thank you. Thank you again, Hannah. Beautiful as always. Blessings, blessings. And thank you for blessing us with your talent. I see we have here, Tammy says, beautiful, Hannah. There you go, Hannah. Thank you, Tammy. Joshua says, shalom, family. Shalom, Joshua. Welcome. Blessings multiplied to you. So Joshua says, can you please translate Assalamu alaikum? It's the Arabic way of saying shalom. In Hebrew, we say shalom, but shalom is actually just a short form of shalom aleichem, which means peace be upon you, peace to you. And so in the Hebrew, it's shalom aleichem. In Arabic, it's assalamu alaikum. So it's pretty much the same thing. It's just in a different language. So yeah, assalamu alaikum, peace be multiplied to you. It's another way of saying shalom. Another way of saying shalom. Thank you, Joshua. All right, so it's been since Thursday, right? Since Thursday, since we were reading from Genesis. On Friday, we had a unforeseen technical problems and got lots of stuff to do around here, and I was trying my best to get everything in order for, in time for the live stream, and it just didn't happen. Way too much to do. So anyways, here we are. So praise God. Joshua says, thanks, brother. Thank you, Joshua. Okay, so Genesis chapter 20. Now, it's very interesting, the story here, like in Genesis 20, 21, 20, 22, going into the whole story about Isaac and all that kind of thing. Reading it from, we read it, that story from the book of Jasher, which gives a lot more detail than what we have here, or at least different details in the book of Jasher. So here we are in the book of Genesis, and we're on here, Genesis chapter 20. So I'm going to start reading here. Verse 1. From there, Abraham traveled to the region of the Negev and settled between Kadesh and Shur. While he was staying in Gerar, Abraham said about his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." So King Abimelech of Gerar had Sarah brought to him. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, "You are about to die because of the woman you have taken, for she is a married woman." Now Abimelech had not approached her, so he said, "Lord, would you destroy a nation even though it is innocent? Didn't he himself say to me, 'She is my sister'? And she herself said, 'He is my brother'? I did this with a clear conscience and clean hands." Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know that you did this with a clear conscience. I have also kept you from sinning against me." Isn't that interesting? Look at that. So this tells me right here that it is possible for God to keep you from sinning against him, at least in certain matters. And I think this might be where we get, where Yeshua gets the idea when, he says, when you pray, pray, lead us not into temptation. Lead us not into temptation. Deliver us from evil, right? So, as God says here to Abimelech, I have also kept you from sinning against me. Amazing. May the Lord do that for every one of us, right? May the Lord do that for every one of us. Lord, keep us from sinning against you. God goes on to say, "Therefore, I have not let you touch her." Look at that. Look at that. That's amazing. "Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, now that you know that you will certainly die, you and all who are yours." Early in the morning, Abimelech got up, called all his servants together and personally told them all these things, and the men were terrified. Abimelech called Abraham in and said to him, "What have you done to us? How did I sin against you that you have brought such an enormous guilt on me and on my kingdom? You have done things to me that should never be done." Abimelech also asked Abraham, "What made you do this?" Abraham replied, "I thought, there is absolutely no fear of God in this place. They will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she is really my sister, the daughter of my father, though not daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. So when God had me wander from my father's house, I said to her, 'Show loyalty to me wherever you go, and say about me, he is my brother.' Then Abimelech took flocks and herds and male and female slaves, gave them to Abraham, and returned his wife Sarah to him. Abimelech said, 'Look, my land is before you. Settle wherever you want.' And he said to Sarah, 'Look, I am giving your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. It is a verification of your honor to all who are with you. You are fully vindicated.' And Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female slaves, so that they could bear children. For the Lord had completely closed all the wombs in Abimelech's household on account of Sarah, Abraham's wife." Genesis chapter 21. The Lord came to Sarah, and as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the appointed time God had told him. Abraham named his son, who was born to him, the one Sarah bore to him, Isaac. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him as God had commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. Sarah said, "God has made me laugh, and everyone who hears will laugh with me." She also said, Who would have told Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne a son for him in his old age." The child grew and was weaned, and Abraham held a great feast on the day Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw the son mocking the one Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham. So she said to Abraham, "Drive out this slave with her son, for the son of this slave will not be co-heir with my son Isaac." Let me just point out this is a very interesting word here in the Hebrew. When it says Sarah saw the son, that would be Ishmael mocking. So Genesis chapter 21, verse 8. Now it says here, verse 9. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, scoffing. Now, it's interesting because, we read in the book of Jasher that it was a whole lot more than just mocking or scoffing. It was persecution, pretty much. See what it says here in the Hebrew. To laugh, mock, play, to laugh, to jest, to sport, play, make sport, toy, make Torah, toy, make a toy of. Let's check out what it says in Sepharia, because I have a feeling that it's going to be a whole lot like book of Jasher. Genesis chapter 21, verse 9. Kind of make this a little bit bigger for you to see it better. It says here, Sarah saw the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham playing. Well, let's see what it says here in the commentaries. Rashi. Well, making sport. Now look what Rashi has to say about it. this means worshiping idols. I mean, Rashi goes further than what the book of Jasher said about it. It's interesting, though, to see what Rashi has to say. This means worshiping idols, as it is said in reference to the golden calf, Exodus 32:6, and they rose up to make merry. So it's the same Hebrew word that's used there. Another explanation is that it refers to immoral conduct, just as you say in reference to Potiphar's wife in Genesis 39:17, to mock at me. Another explanation is that it refers to murder, as 2 Samuel 2:14 says, "Let the young men, I pray thee, arise and make sport before us," where they fought with and killed one another. From Sarah's reply, "For the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son," you may infer that Ishmael, was quarreling with Isaac about the inheritance, saying, "I am the firstborn and will therefore take a double portion." They went into the field, and Ishmael, took his bow and shot arrows at him, Isaac, just as you say, Proverbs 26:18-19, as a madman who casts firebrands, arrows, and death, and says, "I am only mocking." There's that word again, mocking. Genesis Rabbah 53:11. Isn't that interesting? So let's just read a couple more and then we'll move on here. But I think that it's worth just kind of making a pit stop here, because that word, I think, is so glossed over when most people read it in Genesis. It's like a lot of things in Genesis. Like, again, much of Genesis, the first part of Genesis anyway, it's like if you really put a lot of thought to it, it just doesn't really make sense, and it really forces us to read between the lines, to fill in the blanks, because there are a lot of blanks, right? I mean, Genesis doesn't tell us a whole lot about anything, especially in the first few chapters. Okay, so Ibn Ezra says, making sport, Ishmael was acting as a boy in wont to act. Sarah was jealous because he was older than her son. So there's a different interpretation of that right there with Ibn Ezra. Ramban is always interesting, because he normally, it seems like he contradicts Rashi a lot, but it's interesting anyway. Matzah, making sport. This refers to worshiping idols. So he says the same as Rashi here for that matter. This refers to worshiping idols, murder, and sexual immorality. Ishmael, quarreled with Isaac about inheritance, saying, "I am the firstborn and will take a double portion." Now that's found in Deuteronomy. What's this? Deuteronomy 21:17. So that's probably the double portion commandment of the Torah. They then went into the field, and Ishmael took his bow and shot arrows at Isaac, just as you say, as a madman who casts firebrands, arrows, and death, so is the man who deceives his neighbor and says, "Am I not in sport?" And that is Proverbs again. So he's pretty much going right along with Rashi here, Proverbs 26:18-19. It is from Sarah's complaint to Abraham, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir, etc. And that's in verse 10. That you learn that they were quarreling about the inheritance. All this is Rashi's language. Well, thank you for... He gives credit where credit's due there, I suppose. Here, too, the rabbi writes all the different opinions mentioned in the following, quote, "We have been taught," Rabbi Shimon, the son of Eliezer, said, "There are 4 interpretations of Rabbi Akiba, which I interpret differently, and my interpretation seems more acceptable than this." Rabbi Akiba interpreted, quote, "And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne unto Abraham, making sport. Making sport is but a designation for idolatry, etc." Unquote. But I say, heaven forbid that such be in the house of the righteous one. Is it possible that he of whom it was written, for I have known him, to the end that he may command his children and his household, etc.? And that's in chapter 18, verse 19. Will have in his household idolatry, sexual immorality, and murder? Making sport mentioned here is but a designation for the inheritance. When Isaac was born and everyone rejoiced, Ishmael said to them, "Fools, I am the firstborn, and I take a double portion." From the complaint of our mother Sarah to Abraham, you learn that making sport refers to the inheritance, and my interpretation seems more acceptable than that of Rabbi Akiba. The expression of the rabbi, quote, that Ishmael quarreled with Isaac about the inheritance, unquote, also does not appear correct, for if so, this must have happened much later when Isaac was grown up, and Ishmael would then have been too big for his mother to carry him on her shoulder. That's in verse 14 here. Our rabbis have said that Ishmael was 17 years old at the time he left his father's house. If so, this happened at the time when Isaac was weaned, and Isaac was thus too young for Ishmael to quarrel with him about the inheritance. Rabbi Abraham ibn Ezra said in the line with the literal interpretation of the scripture that matzakek means playing, as is normal for every boy, and she was jealous of him because he was bigger than her son. The correct interpretation appears to me to be that this event took place on the day that Isaac was weaned, and Sarah saw Ishmael mocking Isaac, or the great feast. It is for this reason that the verse says, "And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian," rather than Ishmael making sport. Similarly, she said, "Cast out this bondwoman and her son," for she said, "The slave who mocks his master is deserving of death or stripes, but I want only that you cast him out from before me, and that he should in no way inherit your belongings together with my son, who is the son of the mistress." She also told Abraham to cast out his mother, as the boy was unable to leave her, for he would die if he were to leave his mother. Interesting. Let's do one more here. She assumed that the reason Ishmael had made disparaging remarks about Isaac was due to his mother putting him up to it, or to the Egyptian genes of his mother coming into play here. We have a saying in Sukkah 56 that the prattle of children in public reflects either what they picked up from their father or what they picked up from their mother. In the case of Ishmael, he certainly did not overhear his father make such disparaging remarks. Making fun of the big party Abraham had given to mark the weaning of Isaac, he claimed that surely Sarah must have become pregnant from Abimelech. The reason he had not made such remarks already at the time when Yitzhak had been born was because he had only overheard wicked gossip about this at a later stage, and now he repeated what he had heard. So, very interesting there about the different interpretations of that. Now, again, it's like, we only have a little bit here. We only have one word in the Hebrew in the book of Genesis. Again, the book of Jasher really expounds upon, what Ishmael, according to the book of Jasher, did to Isaac in trying to wipe him off the face of the earth, right? I mean, so yeah, seems to me like it was more than just mocking. I think, I in my opinion. Great Deception says shalom, everyone. Shalom, shalom, Great Deception. Billy says shalom. Shalom, Billy. Welcome. Welcome, 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 everyone. All right, let's continue here. Verse 10. So she said to Abraham, drive out this slave with her son, for the son of this slave will not be a co-heir with my son Isaac. This was very distressing to Abraham because of his son. But God said to Abraham, do not be distressed about the boy and about your slave. Whatever Sarah says to you, listen to her, because your offspring will be traced through Isaac. And I also will make a nation of the slave's son, because he is your offspring. Early in the morning, Abraham got up, took bread and a water skin, put them on Hagar's shoulders, and sent her and the boy away. She left and wandered in the wilderness of Beer-sheba. When the water in the skin was gone, she left the boy under one of the bushes and went and sat at a distance about a bowshot away, for she said, I can't bear to watch the boy die. While she sat at a distance, she wept loudly. God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, What's wrong, Hagar? Don't be afraid, for God has heard the boy crying from the place where he is. Get up, help the boy up, and grasp his hand, for I will make him a great nation. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well. So she went and filled the water skin and gave the boy a drink. God was with the boy, and he grew. He settled in the wilderness and became an archer. He settled in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother got a wife for him from the land of Egypt. At that time, Abimelech accompanied Phicol, the commander of his army, and said to Abraham, God is with you in everything you do. Swear to me by God here and now that you will not break an agreement with me or with my children and descendants. As I have been loyal to you, so you will be loyal to me and to the country where you are a resident alien. And Abraham said, I swear it. But Abraham complained to Abimelech because of the well that Abimelech's servants had seized. Abimelech replied, I don't know who did this thing. You didn't report anything to me, so I hadn't heard about it until today. Abraham took flocks and herds and gave them to Abimelech, and the two of them made a covenant. Abraham separated 7 ewe lambs from the flock, and Abimelech said to Abraham, Why have you separated these 7 ewe lambs? He replied, You are to accept the ewe lambs from me, so that this act will serve as a witness that I dug this well. Therefore, that place was called Beer-sheba, because it was there that the two of them swore an oath. After they had made a covenant at Beer-sheba, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, left and returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beer-sheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham lived as an alien in the land of the Philistines for many days. Genesis chapter 22. After these things, God tested Abraham and said, Abraham. Here I am, he answered. Take your son, he said, your only son, whom you love, go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you about. So Abraham got up early in the morning, saddled his donkey, and took with him 2 of his young men and his son Isaac. He split wood for a burnt offering and set out to go to the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. Then Abraham said to his young men, Stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will go over there to worship. Then we will come back to you. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and laid it on his son Isaac. In his hand he took the fire and the knife, and the 2 of them walked on together. Then Isaac spoke to his father Abraham and said, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. Isaac said, The fire and the wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Abraham said, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. Then the two of them walked on together. When they arrived at the place that God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood. He bound his son Isaac and placed him on the altar on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, "Abraham, Abraham." He replied, "Here I am." Then he said, "Do not lay a hand on the boy or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your only son from me." Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in the thicket by its horns. So Abraham went and took the ram and offered it as a burnt offering in place of his son. And Abraham called that place, "The Lord will provide." So today it is said, it will be provided on the Lord's mountain. Then the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, "By myself I have sworn." This is the Lord's declaration. Because you have done this thing and have not withheld your only son, I will indeed bless you and make your offspring as numerous as the stars of the sky and the sand on the seashore. Your offspring will possess the city gates of their enemies, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed by your offspring because you have obeyed my command. Abraham went back to his young men, and they got up and went together to Beersheba, and Abraham settled in Beersheba. Now after these things, Abraham was told, "Milcah also has borne sons to your brother Nahor, Uz his firstborn, his brother Buz, Kemuel, the father of Aram, Chesed, Hazo, Pildash, Yidlaf, and Bethuel. And Bethuel fathered Rebekah. Milcah bore these 8 to Nahor, Abraham's brother. His concubine, whose name was Reumah, also bore Teba, Gaham, Tahash, and Makkah. Genesis chapter 23. Now Sarah lived 127 years. These were all the years of her life. Sarah died in Kiriath Arbor, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan, and Abraham went in to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. When Abraham got up from beside his dead wife, he spoke to the Hittites, "I am an alien residing among you. Give me burial property among you so that I can bury my dead." The Hittites replied to Abraham, "Listen to us, my lord. You are a prince of God among us. Bury your dead in our finest burial place. None of us will withhold from you his burial place for burying your dead." Then Abraham rose and bowed down to the Hittites, the people of the land. He said to them, "If you are willing for me to bury my dead, listen to me and ask Ephron, the son of Zohar, on my behalf, to give me the cave of Machpelah that belongs to him. It is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me in your presence for the full price as burial property." Ephron was sitting among the Hittites. So in the hearing of all the Hittites who came to the gate of his city, Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham, "No, my lord, listen to me. I give you the field, and I give you the cave that is in it. I give it to you in the sight of the people. Bury your dead." Abraham bowed down to the people of the land and said to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, "Listen to me, if you please. Let me pay the price of the field. Accept it from me, and let me bury my dead there." Ephron answered Abraham and said to him, "My lord, listen to me. Land worth 400 shekels of silver, what is that between you and me? Bury your dead." Abraham agreed with Ephron, and Abraham weighed out to Ephron the silver that he agreed to in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 standard shekels of silver. So Ephron's field at Machpelah near Mamre, the field with its cave, and all the trees anywhere within the boundaries of the field became Abraham's possession in the sight of all the Hittites who came to the gate of his city. After this, Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave of the field at Machpelah near Mamre, that is, Hebron, in the land of Canaan. The field with its cave passed from the Hittites to Abraham as burial property. Genesis chapter 24. Abraham was now old, getting on in years, and the Lord had blessed him in everything. Abraham said to his servant, the elder of his household, who managed all he owned, "Place your hand under my thigh, and I will have you swear by the Lord, God of heaven and God of earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I live, but will go to my land and my family to take a wife for my son Isaac." The servant said to him, "Suppose the woman is unwilling to follow me to this land. Should I have your son go back to the land you came from?" Abraham answered him, "Make sure that you don't take my son back there. The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from my native land, who spoke to me and swore to me, 'I will give this land to your offspring,' he will send his angel before you, and you can take a wife for my son from there. If the woman is unwilling to follow you, then you are free from this oath to me, but don't let my son go back there." So the servant placed his hand under his master Abraham's thigh, and he swore an oath to Abraham concerning this matter. The servant took 10 of his master's camels, and with all kinds of his master's goods in hand, he went to Aram Naharaim, to Nahor's town. At evening, the time when women went to draw water, he made the camels kneel beside a well outside the town. "Lord, God of my master Abraham," he prayed, "make this happen for me today, and show kindness to my master Abraham. I am standing there at the spring, where the waters of the men of the town are coming out to draw water. Let the girl, to whom I say, 'Please lower your water jug so that I may drink,' and who responds, 'Drink, and I'll water your camels also,' let her be the one you have appointed for your servant Isaac. By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master." Before he had finished speaking, there was Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor, coming with a jug on her shoulder. Now the girl was very beautiful, a virgin. No man had been intimate with her. She went down to the spring, filled her jug, and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, "Please let me have a little water from your jug." She replied, "Drink, my lord." She quickly lowered her jug to her hand and gave him a drink. When she had finished giving him a drink, she said, "I'll also draw water for your camels until they have had enough to drink." She quickly emptied her jug into the trough and hurried to the well again to draw water. She drew water for all his camels, while the man silently watched her to see whether or not the Lord had made his journey a success. Just a little footnote here. I think it's worth noting. They have estimated that Rebekah drew up to or approximately 300 gallons of water, estimating how much water each camel would drink. Now, let me just... Yeah, so earlier on in the chapter, we just read that the servant took 10 of his master's camels. So that's in verse 10. The servant took 10 of his master's camels. Assuming this number is accurate, they say that a thirsty camel can drink up to 30 gallons apiece. That's what I've heard. A thirsty camel can drink up to 30 gallons. Okay, so if that's the case, I mean, Sarah really was a hard worker, really a hard worker, and someone who didn't wasn't afraid to do a lot of hard work and to offer help, not only to help the servant but also the camels. Isn't that amazing? Verse 22, as the camels finished drinking, the man took a gold ring weighing half a shekel, and for her wrists 2 bracelets weighing 10 shekels of gold. Whose daughter are you? He asked. Please tell me. Is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? She answered him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. She also said to him, we have plenty of straw and feed and a place to spend the night. Then the man knelt low, worshipped the Lord, and said, Blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not withheld his kindness and faithfulness from my master. As for me, the Lord has led me on the journey to the house of my master's relatives. The girl ran and told her mother's household about these things. Now Rebekah had a brother named Laban. And Laban ran out to meet the man at the spring. Now, I believe the name Laban means white, I think. Let's see if we got this. Verse 29. Okay, it doesn't really say there. But I think that as far as I know, the name Laban means white. And Laban ran out to the man at the spring. As soon as he had seen the ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrists, and when he had heard his sister Rebekah's words, the man said this to me. He went to the man. He was standing there by the camels at the spring. Laban said, Come, you who are blessed by the Lord. Why are you standing out here? I have prepared the house and a place for the camels. So the man came to the house, and the camels were unloaded. Straw and feed were given to the camels, and water was brought to wash his feet, and the feet of the men with him. A meal was set before him, but he said, I will not eat until I have said what you have to say. I will not eat until I have said what I have to say. So Laban said, Please speak. I am Abraham's servant, he said. The Lord has greatly blessed my master, and he has become rich. He has given him flocks and herds, silver and gold, male and female slaves, and camels and donkeys. Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master in her old age, and he has given him everything he owns. My master put me under this oath. You will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites in whose land I live, but you will go to my father's family and to my clan to take a wife for my son. But I said to my master, Suppose the woman will not come back with me. He said to me, The Lord whom I have walked, before whom the Lord before whom I have walked will send his angel with you and make your journey a success, and you will take a wife for my son from my clan and from my father's family. Then you will be free from my oath if you go to my family and they do not give her to you. You will be free from my oath. Today when I came to the spring, I prayed, Lord, God of my master Abraham, if you will make my journey successful, I am standing here at a spring. Let a young woman who comes out to draw water, and I say to her, Please let me drink a little water from your jug, and who responds to me, Drink, and I'll draw water for your camels also. Let her be the woman the Lord has appointed for my master's son. Before I had finished praying silently, there was Rebekah coming with her jug on her shoulder, and she went down to the spring and drew water. So I said to her, Please let me have a drink. She quickly lowered her jug from her shoulder and said, "Drink, and I'll water your camels also." So I drank, and she also watered the camels. Then I asked her, "Whose daughter are you?" She responded, "The daughter of Bethuel, son of Nahor, whom Milcah bore to him." So I put the ring on her nose and the bracelets on her wrists. Then I knelt low, worshipped the Lord, and blessed the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who guided me on the right way to take the granddaughter of my master's son for his son. The granddaughter of my master's brother for his son. Now, if you are going to show kindness and faithfulness to my master, tell me. If not, tell me, and I will go elsewhere. Laban and Bethuel answered, "This is from the Lord. We have no choice in the matter. Rebekah is here in front of you. Take her and go, and let her be a wife for your master's son, just as the Lord has spoken." When Abraham's servant heard their words, he bowed to the ground before the Lord. Then he brought out objects of silver and gold and garments and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave precious gifts to her brother and her mother. Then he and the men with him ate and drank and spent the night. When they got up in the morning, he said, "Send me to my sister." But her brother and her mother said, "Let the girl stay with us for about 10 days. Then she can go." But he responded to them, "Do not delay me, since the Lord has made my journey a success. Send me away so that I may go to my master." So they said, "Let's call the girl and ask her opinion." They called Rebekah and said to her, "Will you go with this man?" She replied, "I will go." So they sent away their sister Rebekah with the one who had nursed and raised her, and Abraham's servant and his men. They blessed Rebekah, saying to her, "Our sister, may you become thousands upon 10,000s. May your offspring possess the city gates of their enemies." Then Rebekah and her female servants got up, mounted the camels, and followed the man. So the servant took Rebekah and left. Now Isaac was returning from Beer Lahai Roi, for he was living in the Negev region. In the early evening, Isaac went out to walk in the field, and looking up, he saw camels coming. Rebekah looked up, and when she saw Isaac, she got down from her camel and asked the servant, "Who is that man in the field coming to meet us?" The servant answered, "It is my master." So she took her veil and covered herself. Then the servant told Isaac everything he had done. And Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah and took Rebekah to be his wife. Isaac loved her, and he was comforted after his mother's death. I'll read one more chapter, and that'll be it for the night. Chapter 25. Abraham had taken another wife, whose name was Keturah, and she bore him Zimron, Yokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Yokshan fathered Sheba and Dedan, and Dedan's sons were the Ashurim, Letushim, and Leumim. And Midian's sons were Ephah, Epher, Hanok, Abida, and Eldaah. All these were sons of Keturah. Abraham gave everything he owned to Isaac, but Abraham gave gifts to the sons of his concubines, and while he was still alive, he sent them eastward, away from his son Isaac, to the land of the east. This is the length of Abraham's life, 175 years. He took his last breath and died at a good old age, old and contented, and he was gathered to his people. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite. This was the field that Abraham bought from the Hittites. Abraham was buried there with his wife Sarah. After Abraham's death, God blessed his son Isaac, who lived near Beer Lahai Roi. These are the family records of Abraham's son Ishmael, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's slave, bore to Abraham. These are the names of Ishmael's sons. Their names, according to the family records, are Nebaioth, Ishmael's firstborn, then Kedar, Abiel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Yatur, Naphish, and Kedema. These are Ishmael's sons, and these are the names by their settlements and encampments, 12 leaders of their clans. This is the length of Ishmael's life, 137 years. He took his last breath and died and was gathered to his people. And they settled from Havilah to Shur, which is opposite Egypt as you go towards Ashur. He stayed near all his relatives. These are the family records of Isaac, son of Abraham. Abraham fathered Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he took as his wife Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean, from Padan Aram, and sister of Laban, the Aramean. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was childless. The Lord was receptive to his prayer, and his wife Rebekah conceived. But the children inside her struggled with each other. And she said, "Why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb. Two peoples will come from you and be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." When her time came to give birth, there were indeed twins in her womb. The first came out red-looking, covered with hair like a fur coat, and they named him Esau. After this, his brother came out grasping Esau's heel with his hand, so he was named Yaakov, or Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when they were born. When the boys grew up, Esau became an expert hunter, an outdoorsman, but Jacob was a quiet man who stayed at home. Isaac loved Esau because he had a taste for wild game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Once when Jacob was cooking a stew, Esau came in from the field exhausted. He said to Jacob, "Let me eat some of that red stuff because I'm exhausted." That's why he was also named Edom. Jacob replied, "First, sell me your birthright." "Look," said Esau, "I'm about to die, so what good is a birthright to me?" Jacob said, "Swear to me." So he swore to Jacob, and sold his birthright to him. Then Jacob gave bread and lentil stew to Esau. He ate, drank, got up, and went away. So Esau despised his birthright. Wow, so that wraps it up for tonight's reading. Yeah, so we read right up until the end, at least, of Abraham's life. Very interesting there. Last call for anybody in the live chat to, if you have any extra questions or comments or prayer requests. So, yeah, we'll continue the story tomorrow. Again, at 7 p.m. Eastern, same time, same place, Lord willing, by the grace of God. And, yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. All right. Yeah, so that's it for tonight then. If you're new here, we do this every single day of the week. Sunday through Friday, 6 days, we start at 7 p.m. Eastern, and on Saturday, we start at 2 p.m. Eastern. Saturday is usually a different day. We don't really do our, daily readings per se on Saturday. It's kind of like a more of a, it's a different kind of a live stream. So, so thank you, everyone. All right. Yeah, so, if any of you have any suggestions, or if you want to contact me privately, you can always contact me privately at christopherenoch@protonmail.com. Otherwise, you can always put in on the live chat for some live interaction. All right, so Tammy says, have a wonderful night, all. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Tammy. You too. Blessings to you and your family. Okay, thanks, everyone. Blessings. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. Love you guys as always. Tower Time says, stay blessed, y'all. Thank you very much, brother. God bless you more. So I'll see you again tomorrow evening, Lord willing. As always, I pray the Lord bless you and keep you, make his face to shine upon you, lift up his countenance upon you, and give you wonderful, wonderful shalom. Amen, amen. See you tomorrow.